Guess who's back? Back again. Guess who's back? Brother Run's back. That's right, Jack. It's a fact. I hope y'all can hear me out there. Testing 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. What the heck is bothering me? 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. What the heck is bothering me? 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. What the heck is bothering me? Get around, chillin'. Get around. Brother Ron is back in town. Got some tales to tell. Run tales. Ooh. Trying to check everything out. Get this situated. I think everything looks good. For the most part, everything looks good. Get down to the brass knuckles taxes of the situation. Ain't no hell stepping and we all be. News free Dixie for the 21st century. Want to thank y'all for hanging out with Brother Ron tonight. Let me get a crowd up in here. I told y'all it's rare that I could do a movie review that is shorter than the movie because I try to give a little bit of contextual realization around the fantasy of what you're seeing on the big screen or the small screen on your laptops or your smartphones. I think it's very important. I saw a comment recently. Somebody, we just want the movie review. Well, you at the wrong place. I'm not just gonna give you a movie review. I want to put some historical context around it because we got a class is in session. Class should be in session 24/7. 24/7. If you don't like my teaching style, that ain't my problem because I'm trying to reach the folks I want to reach. Not that I want to reach, but whoever can receive what I got to offer, it's yours. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I'm doing. Just trying to get through this winter wonder hell. This ain't Wonderland, it's wonder hell. I mean, I'm in Memphis, man. Memphis was about prepared for this snowstorm or a series of snowstorms as a brother is prepared to be in a long-term relationship with Lori Harvey. Once again, let me say, Memphis was about prepared for a snowstorm. You heard me? Like a brother who's trying to be in a long-term relationship with Lori Harvey. It's complicated. The city could have had a better response. I'm downtown, man. What's outside ain't fit for man, beast, child, whatever. It's hard, man, because you can't drive in it. It's all stacked up. You can't walk in it. It's like walking through the Sahara. Only difference is it's freezing. Even if you have gloves on and sweaters, it's still cold outside. Did not see one stray dog or homeless person outside today. And I don't know when the next time I'm going back outside. Now, it was crazy. I was craving a burger today. I would have took a Happy Meal burger from McDonald's right now, but everything was closed. It's like when I called the place before they opened, they said, well, we playing it by ear. As soon as I get to the place, they closed. I don't know, they stayed open for an hour. You got places closed around lunchtime. You got Kroger's closing at 6 p.m. You got, Domino's not delivering pizza. I'm thinking, man, maybe I could get a pizza. I know it would probably be a wait of several hours, but even the snow shut down the pizza place from delivering. Even I saw postal workers struggling. They say rain, sleet, hail, or snow. The postal workers going to deliver. They couldn't even get out of reverse. They got stuck in the snow. It's ridiculous outside. So if you don't have to go outside, then don't go outside. But if you looking for a good workout, there's a thin line between doing cardio and having a heart attack. And then I guess go outside because you will get that workout. Because I'll get that workout. I'll get that work in. And it was crazy. But we got a couple things to talk about tonight. I hope y'all can hear me. I think y'all can hear me. Got a couple things to talk about as related to the movie, the Judas and the Black Messiah, but also some other things I want to add to that narrative. I think when you take these type of movies, it's a time for people to really catch up on what's really going down. Like it's based on a true story, but let's get the true background stories behind the so-called based on a true story. And I want to connect some dots. I think it's very important. I'm thankful for these type of teaching moments to give people something to attach to. But I think it's enough. But yeah, today is a very interesting day, folks. It's the birthday. February 17th is the birthday of I guess it's GOAT Day. You got the birthday of Jim Brown, arguably the greatest football player of all time. I know everybody's saying Tom Brady, TB12, he got the 7 rings and get all the quarterback records just about. He's going to be the king on top of the hill for a long, long time in terms of the records and stuff like that. He's given a lot of homework and for Patrick Mahomes to catch up on. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes going to be the GOAT, you got to, get to that GOAT level. Tom Brady set the bar high, but I would say Jim Brown could still be considered the greatest football player of all time. And you consider like all the things he was able to set, and he retired by the age of 29. He was able to set a lot of records that he's still in the top 10 of. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of things that he's still in the top 10. He should have been the first black football player to win a Heisman, but that's another story. They gave it to Paul Hornung out of Notre Dame. He won. I mean, Paul Hornung was a great football player, no doubt. He went on to play for the Green Bay Packers, Hall of Fame football player. We lost, I think, last year or the year before, not too long ago. Paul Hornung made his transition, but shit, Jim Brown, that year that Paul Hornung won, it could have easily been Jim Brown's, because Jim Brown was just a beast. Not only that, he's one of the greatest lacrosse players of all time. He's a phenomenal athlete from St. Simons, Georgia, the Georgia Islands, Gullah Geechee land. So he was born February 17, 1936. And also Huey P. Newton, the founder of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense out in Oakland back in October of 1966. He was born February 17th, 1942, down in Monroe, Louisiana. Named after Huey P. Long, the Share the Wealth senator and former governor of Louisiana, who was assassinated down at the state capitol in Baton Rouge back in September 1935, where they finished the job on an operating table down in New Orleans, but they, initiated the job. He was a threat to Franklin Roosevelt. This man had millions of followers around the country. Share the wealth movement. This is back in the 1930s. Y'all think about Donald Trump and his populism of the day. Huey P. Long was amazing. He was a force of nature. They didn't have no social media back then. Yeah, he'll get millions of listeners on the radio on a weekly basis. Tens of thousands of letters will flood his office in D.C. from around the country. He had millions of Americans following him. And Huey P. Newton was named after Huey P. Long because he initiated an adult literacy program to help adults, no matter what your race or color was. He wanted to teach adults in Louisiana how to read at a proficient level. So, Huey Long was a rare politician, unlike George Wallace. He didn't play the race politics of the day. He was all about, share the wealth. He was about class equity, about bringing class warfare to the powers that be, to give the people a living wage, maybe work 20 hours per week, have a living wage, decent housing. So, I mean, some of the stuff that the Panthers stood for as well. So, yeah, he was born, and also born today, February 17th, 1963 in Brooklyn. Brooklyn in the house. Michael Jeffrey Jordan, arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. So February 17th is a very powerful day. And also it's a grand exit day, the transition of people to righteous ancestors. I'm a big jazz fan. One of the people who left on February 17th was the one and only Thelonious Spear Monk, a visionary, brilliant jazz visionary, music genius like no other. One of my favorite, composers and piano players of all time. Had his own unique approach to piano and composing. He made his transition February 17th, 1982 in Weehawken, New Jersey at the residence of the Jazz Baroness. I know we talked about the Jazz Baroness during the Jimmy Lawrence for Demery Festival. That's the same woman who was a Rothschild. She was a big patron of jazz musicians. And also she was a part of the Rothschild family banking dynasty. They called her the Jazz Baroness. So he died in her home, in her mansion in Weehawken, New Jersey. Now, also Charlie Parker made his transition at her residence at the Stanhope Hotel. Charlie Yardbird Parker. These are the two of the biggest music visionaries of modern American music of the 20th century. Charlie Parker and Thelonious Monk, black men, brilliant black men who breathed their last breaths in the residence of the Jazz Baroness, a white woman from Europe with a lot of money, Rothschild money. We're getting Rothschild money. We're getting Rothschild money. So he made his transition on February 17th, 1982. Then 20 years ago, February 17th, 2001, righteous ancestor, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, beautiful black man with a shiny bald head, the ebony, the melanated Mr. Clean, brilliant brother, strong man, spokesperson for Black liberation, made his transition under questionable circumstances. February 17th, down 2001, down in Georgia, Georgia, Georgia. It's not funny, but yeah, don't forget about Dr. Khalid Muhammad. So February 17th is a very, very, very powerful day in melanated history, in Black history, in FBA history, in Adolf's history, whatever you want to call yourself. You can have whatever you like. So, yeah, shout out to those guys. Maybe I should have shared the screen when I was talking about them, but let me go ahead and do that now. There's a Mercury retrograde going on. Down with the GOATs, y'all. The GOATs, Jim Brown, number 32, Huey P. Newton, and Michael Jeffrey Jordan, all born February 17th, 1936, 1942, 1963. Two of them still alive, brother in the middle dead. We're going to talk about Huey tonight as we talk about Fred Hampton and tie it all in. I think it's very important. So I just want to pay homage. Give y'all respects, man. Everybody calling me today and yesterday. I'm only one person, man. You don't understand. I'm only one man trying to do the best that I can with whatever I have. I ain't a perfect man. I'm trying to do the best that I can with whatever I have. I'm not a perfect man, but I got a lot on my mind. And I thank you all for receiving this information. And really what I do, I try to communicate all this information is therapy for me. I got a lot going on in my life, man. I just don't talk about everything. And really, I'm a loner, but I'm never alone. I got the ancestors or ancestors rather with me, and I got me, myself, and I. So I'm always in good company. But this work is very much a loner's work. Truth seeking is a lonely existence, and it is what it is. But I'm living out my destiny, and so I thank you for rocking with me. If you appreciate the God work that I'm laying down, and I know that the best yet to come, but right now I'm in the process of making some major transitions in my life, my personal life, as well as my professional life. So I'm not trying to get everybody to understand. Like, it's funny, people like relatives and friends and strangers, they think that when I say something, I'm trying to debate them or try to get them to see it my way. I'm not really interested at this point in my life in anybody agreeing with me. I'm just more about me preserving my sanity, my peace of mind, and doing my work the way I'm going to do it. I'm be unapologetic as I move forward in doing the work that I'm doing. Not interested in seeking a consensus at this point. I'm all about hiding the contradictions and whatnot. So, like, it's a lonely existence, and people assume too much. Like, I post up, people misread what I post. Like wait, for example, like Lupe Fiasco. I sent a shout out to Lupe Fiasco. His birthday was on February 16th, right? All black everything. And folks, I know I respect that. I'm glad people are woke and aware. Now people say, well, he was trying to push vaccinations or push that stuff on people. Like, you can't go to his concerts unless you get tested and temperature taken. There's a lot of things you ain't gonna agree with nobody 100% on. But I'll just paying homage to the fact that the guy's a very talented rapper, gifted lyricist. Wasn't getting too much into his politics per se. Now, I do realize that everything is political, just like the people I got on this screen. You're not going to agree 100% with anything these guys may have stood for, what they have talked about in their lives, or what they may have done. Things that came out about Jim Brown in terms of his problematic relationships with women, in the what he went through in the past with women. It is what it is, but he's still an icon, and he's still somebody who gave back to the people. So you got to balance the pros and cons out and heighten the contradictions. Same thing with Huey P. Newton. Very problematic in a lot of ways, his legacy, because he's a human. Anybody that's a human being, you're going to have contradictions. You're going to have you're just going to have, I ain't gonna call it hypocrisy. It's just complex being a human being, but you should balance it out. Be fair and balanced in your assessment of these people, especially in their shortcomings. Same thing with Michael Jeffrey Jordan. You ain't gonna agree with everything, especially from his politics. When he was sought out for an endorsement for Harvey Gantt. Harvey Gantt was, I believe, he was the first black mayor of Charlotte. He was running as a senator against the very powerful and very racist white supremacist Jesse Helms Jr., whose father was an adversary of one of my heroes, Robert F. Williams, in Monroe, North Carolina. Jesse Williams, Jesse Helms, think about the mulatto, the mulatto. Jesse Helms, his father was a fire chief and a police chief in Monroe, North Carolina. And I'm talking about Robert F. Williams, whose birthday is this month, Negroes with Guns. Like, you check him out, Radio Free Dixie. So Michael Jordan said even Republicans buy shoes. So he didn't want to get political, even though Michael Jordan grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina, where they had that white supremacist insurrection, right? Wilmington of 1898. So that's his background. He was born in Brooklyn, but he was raised in North Carolina in Wilmington, of all places, where they had the insurrection of 1898. So he said even Republicans buy shoes, right? So, y'all, Lupe, I appreciate y'all pointing it out. You got to hide in the contradictions, but I really was paying homage to his artistry. I know he's a Muslim or was at one point, and like I said, it is what it is. People are complex like that. So, with that said, let's talk about Huey P. Newton. But let me get people that could talk about Huey P. Newton. People that actually, one person knew Huey, another person, I guess, knew of him, and they travel in, same circles, whatever. Okay. I'm going to play Baba Dick Gregory. I love Dick Gregory, man. I had no ideas these interviews would become valuable as they are. A lot of people, other people interviewed Dick Gregory, but we took the time to talk about some things that maybe other people didn't catch, because a lot of people want to be sensationalized, want to talk about a lot of gossipy stuff. And now I get what he was saying, years later about, don't really care about all the gossipy things. Let's talk about some real stuff. So I asked him about Huey P. Newton and Eldridge Cleaver. And we're going to play that right quick on We All Be, and then keep it moving. So this is Baba Dick Gregory assessment in his own words of Huey P. Newton and Eldridge Cleaver. So, and thank y'all for being patient, for rocking with the artivist tonight. Tonight is the night. Tonight is the night. Okay. Find this stuff.
Actually, just because you talked about agents, you touched on Thurgood Marshall being an agent for the FBI. What about, I know you told me last week about Huey Newton and Eldridge Cleaver.
Huey Newton and Eldridge Cleaver, they was not just agents, they was punk drug dealers, man. They wouldn't pick them dogs off the street and got them to do that to get black folk killed. How you gonna have some thugs hold a press conference and say, we're gonna kill the white racist police? You just told every white cop or every light complected black cop, when you see a black man turn the corner, grab your gun. That's what that was about. That's what that was about. So that's where they go. As long as they're talking about kill the white racist police, do you know the Black Panthers never killed a cop?
What about you with the Officer Frey, the guy that he went to the gas train or was the sheriff for?
I didn't hear you.
Oh, the guy that Huey went to jail for back in the 60s, Officer James Frey.
Yeah.
His name Fry or whatever. Yeah. You didn't tell me he didn't kill him?
Who didn't kill who?
Oh, Huey Newton didn't kill that cop.
I didn't say he didn't. What you mean? Again, you said it. You mean to tell me? I ain't told you nothing.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's the narrative that they put out there, that he got, he shot the cop. You didn't say that, but they said the narrative. Wait.
Shot a cop when he was a Black Panther?
Yeah, back in the back in the 60s. When he went to jail, Free Huey movement, when they had the Free Huey thing going on.
Remember, they can tell you anything. We just got all kinds of cops get killed. Don't forget the big case in Philadelphia. The brother's still in jail.
Right? Abu Jamal, yes, sir.
Yeah, well, then who killed a cop? Abu Jamal had a 45, and the cop was killed with a 38.
That's just, but you said, logic is suspended in the land of white supremacy. There's no logic.
Huh?
There's no logic when you're dealing with white supremacy. There's no justice for black people.
Well, it don't have to be no logic, because we got people believing in the white supremacy, a bunch of ignorant, redneck white folks. White supremacy is the most powerful people on the planet.
Yes, sir.
Huh? That's how white folks is 3% of the world's population, and non-white folks is 97%, but the 3% control the whole planet. That's not ignorant, redneck, can't read, can't write.
Yeah, but you know, go ahead, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Now I was thinking about Geronimo Pratt too as well. I mean, he spent almost 30 years in jail, and the Panthers knew he was in a meeting with the leadership. Even the FBI had footage of that, but yet they let him go to jail for 30 years almost, knowing they had evidence that he was in a meeting with the Panther leadership.
Did they kill King?
Yes, sir.
Well, what's worse, to be killed or go to jail for 30 years?
I think. Oh, that's a trick question, right?
No, it's not. You get to see your children grow up.
Okay.
Huh?
Yes, sir. But his wife got killed. You know, his wife got killed when she was like 8 months pregnant. Geronimo Pratt, first wife, got killed and stuff in a bed mattress, and they found her in a ravine in Los Angeles. So he went through a lot of hell. Know what I'm saying? So maybe he thought I don't know. It's just disturbing that we keep on thinking things gonna be different.
Thinking what?
Things gonna change. I mean, I know some things change, but a lot of things it seems like it's remains the same.
They killed Jesus Christ and told me to call it a good day, so I called it Good Friday. Things do change.
Yes, sir.
My Jesus, that was a good day.
That was Baba Dick Gregory, his take on Huey P. Newton and Eldridge Cleaver. He believed they were agent provocateurs, thugs, filth, whatever, how Baba Dick Gregory talks. And that's interesting. So also I want to play right now Judge Joe Brown, who actually knew Huey P. Newton. I guess Judge was a Black Panther. I got to ask him straight. Judge, so you saying you're a Black Panther? Because, it was Judge Joe Brown. He recruited Elaine Brown. Of course, Elaine, something about Elaine Brown. And Geronimo Pratt that we spoke about. And Bunchy Carter, who got killed at UCLA campus along with John Huggins back in January of '69. So I'm going to get his take on Huey P. Newton from his own words, what he thought about Huey himself. This is the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. We'll have him on the show, I guess, very soon, probably this weekend. I don't know. Also he's out there, so I don't know how his internet is working out there where he's at. He'd be having internet connectivity issues, but we'll see. But let's play the judge right now. His thoughts on Huey P. Newton. Like I said, it's Huey's birthday. Today is Huey P. Newton's birthday. So let's see what Judge got to say. And then we'll come right back. It won't be that long. And thank y'all for being very patient. I'm just trying to work my way through this stuff. And you are rocking what we all be. News Free Dixie for the 21st century.
This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News Free Dixie for the 21st century.
Well, I have heard this. I know Dick Gregory told me this, and he said that Huey Newton and Eldridge were agents too. And I heard that Huey had been compromised by the authorities. I mean, he was mind control, like when he was in prison back in the '60s.
Well, I know when he got out, he's crazy.
Right.
I've seen him walk into a club. He'd kick anybody's behind in the club. Come on, get it on right now. He wasn't but like 5'7",
Wow, I know he was that short. Wow, okay.
Maybe 5'8" on a stretch, but he got jacked up. Somebody did him in.
That was really interesting because he was a very brilliant guy, it seems, but I read his Revolutionary Suicide, and I know I saw this documentary that came out in the late '90s, Power to the People, and people on the documentary, even Bobby Seale said, with some issues with him using drugs. Like he was using drugs before the Panthers started. Yeah. The movie The Mac, it said that the Panthers had something to do with the assassination of Frank Ward, the pimp. There was a helper with the Mac when it was being filmed in Oakland. I don't know, so they're trying to control the drug trade in Oakland. It was Huey was trying to do.
The guy played the Mac, went to my junior high school also.
Oh, really? Wow, man. You just know who's a who. But the guy, I know the Frank Ward character that's based on, he was killed during the filming of the Mac. So they were using him to get
So we open up some Pandora's box here with Huey. And it's not a knock against Brother Huey. Like I said, we got to heighten the contradictions. And like I said, this Judas and the Black Messiah film has produced a wonderful opportunity for us to take hold. Like I really challenge other so-called new black media to really do something about, a review of not only Judas and the Black Messiah, but also to talk about the history of the Panthers and how it's been presented to us over the years and all the contradictions and the misleading information, the misinformation or disinformation and how they portray the Panthers. Somebody, I don't thank y'all for listening. Everybody, shout out to everybody in the chat. It's possible, actually, Brother Brian, like he said, okay, Huey P. Newton attended the People's Temple with Jim Jones. It's fascinating, man, because you know what? A lot of black folks follow Jim Jones. He was very popular in the Bay Area. Now, Jim Jones come from Indiana. Indiana is an interesting place. Mike Pence, the former vice president, he came from Indiana. A lot of interesting folks. Larry Bird is from Indiana. The man who plays like a black man, who's a white man, he said, I learned how to play the black man game from the black man. Indiana is like a psyop place to me because Jim Jones is from Indiana, had a large black following in the Bay, and also a lot of the Democrats in California, they was on the mind control. They was at his beck and call. I mean, people that we know today, like the Pelosi's, like Nancy Pelosi, like Dianne Feinstein, the long-serving senator from California, like Harvey Milk, the openly gay politician. This man was writing basically love letters of endorsement. Endorsement letters about Jim Jones to Jimmy Carter, the president. Matter of fact, Jimmy Carter's wife, I think her Rosalind Carter, when Jim Jones wanted her to show up, she would show up to him. From my understanding, this is what I get from people talking about Jim Jones. Jim Jones is interesting. He probably really was CIA. One of his best friends from Indiana was a CIA officer who went down into South America, to Central America, to train folks in torturing techniques. So Jim Jones was a CIA asset as far as I'm concerned. And we still don't know the truth about Jonestown, the official truth. The official story is the official lie. The Congressman Leo Ryan, I believe his name was Leo Ryan, who was killed down there in Jonestown at the airport. Where are the monuments to him? It's like he would have been a hero, right? He died in the line of duty trying to see about his constituents. Where are the memorials and movies and books about Leo Ryan? Why they cover him up? And we still don't know how those folks actually died down in Jonestown. It's still a mystery to this day. We don't even really know Jim Jones was killed that day. I heard that Jim Jones had body doubles. They say Trump got body doubles. A lot of world leaders got body doubles. Saddam Hussein had body doubles. His sons had body doubles. They made a movie about one of his sons having a body double. So we don't even know they really got killed. We don't know if Gaddafi got really killed. These guys were CIA assets. So we don't know what happened. Jeffrey Epstein. Come on, folks. But Huey was on that stuff. He had a drug problem before he started the Panthers. People like Bobby Seale talked about this, one of the co-founders of the Panthers, right? In that documentary I talked about with Judge Joe Brown, Power to the People, Bobby Seale and a lot of other folks were honest that Huey had a substance abuse problem and a chemical dependency, as you will. And y'all should read Huey in his own words, Revolutionary Suicide. So also, we're going to talk about Huey and Frank Ward. We brought up Frank Ward, right? He's the basis for the character that Max Julian played, Goldie, in the Mac. Now, Judge O'Brien said he went to junior high with Max Julian. Judge O'Brien went to school with Donald DeFreeze, Cinque from the Symbionese Liberation Army. The Cinque that allegedly kidnapped Patty Hearst, the media heiress. This we call it Symbionese Liberation Army. Donald DeFreeze, aka Cinque. See, Judge is interesting. I don't know who Judge. Judge is a fascinating dude. He all with the Panthers. I know Franco Diggs. Geronimo Pratt. Bunchy Carter, John Huggins, Delane Brown. Judge got a very fascinating background and pedigree. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about Frank Ward and the Mac. But I want to talk about this other movie because people talking about how Judas and the Black Messiah. And thank you, Brother Brian, for that. But y'all didn't look at Jim Jones and how he was able to control that Democratic Party. Really, the Democratic Party from California is carrying out kind of like the mission of Jim Jones. It's like Jim Jones was a Hitler or something. They had them on the, it was Dianne Feinstein that found the bodies of Harvey Milk and the mayor of San Francisco, Moscone, who was allegedly killed by Dan White. Now, they said that Dianne Feinstein allegedly had the same type of gun as Dan White, who allegedly killed Harvey Milk and Moscone, the mayor of San Francisco. She was the one that found the bodies. Then somebody said that she donated her gun to United Nations to be melted down. So the evidence is not there. I mean, I don't know, man. This stuff is weird. But y'all should need to check into the California Democratic Party, because who's to say that they actually winning every election cycle? Who's to say that they're actually winning, the Democrats? But they control the scene. Now they're trying to call for the Californication. It's the Californication of America right now. Because look who's in office. You got the Speaker of the House, Pelosi. Then you got in the vice president spot, you got Kamala Harris, who has been doing presidential things. You know how they talk about the news that she actually been contacting other countries, normally reserved for a president to do. She's doing things that normally is reserved for a president. So, hey, man, I'm not going to blame black people for the situation we're in right now, because there's an agenda at play, and that's for another show. So, Indiana is a really interesting place, man. They were the largest Klan state in the country back in the 20s when the Klan had the revival. There were millions of people strong. Indiana was the biggest Klan state, and I talked about that guy who brought it all down because he did a Me Too thing where he raped and violated this white woman. She died from her wounds from that rape. We talked about that. Oh man, so let's talk about the movie Panther. Because people talking about the Black Messiah. And I make sure be mindful of my neighbors. They like to complain. If I was having loud music or having sex and making loud noises, nobody would complain. But I'm not playing loud music or having sex. I'm just loud talking about this information. So I'm gonna be mindful of the neighbors. But we all snowed in for the most part, and management ain't here, so be delayed response if I get any noise complaints. So I don't really care right now at this moment. But I try to be neighborly. But let me do this right here. Y'all remember that movie Panther, man? All-star cast. Courtney B. Vance played Bobby Seale, and his brother named Marcus Chong. He played Huey. I thought he did a great job playing Huey. But yeah, Bobby Brown, this movie, Chris Tucker. Mario Van Peebles directed the movie. His father, Melvin Van Peebles, wrote the screenplay. Dick Gregory was in the movie. Dick Gregory was Reverend Slocum. So you had a lot of black names, like Angela Bassett reprised her role as Dr. Betty Shabazz. Huey Newton talked about how they escorted her from the airport and how she was proud to be escorted by strong, masculine black men. She felt so protected. Because what y'all don't understand is Huey said it himself, if Malcolm lived, they would not have started the Panther Party. They would have joined whatever Malcolm was doing. They probably joined the Organization for Afro-American Unity that Malcolm started based on the Organization for African Unity that he witnessed in Africa. And Malcolm's assassination date is coming February 21st. So we're going to talk about that. But the Panthers was an inspiration from Malcolm. And also, Huey was inspired by one of Malcolm's friends, Robert F. Williams. Robert F. Williams from Monroe, North Carolina, who was the president of the Monroe, North Carolina chapter of the NAACP. He used to get in the shootouts with the Klan, him and his wife, Sister Mabel Williams. And they had to escape the country because they was accused of kidnapping white people during a race riot in Monroe. So they had to escape the country. They became an enemies of the state. Robert F. Williams and Mabel. They was on the FBI most wanted list. So my blood cousin, a real revolutionary named Julian Mayfield. Now I'm related to Curtis Mayfield, but this might be my favorite Mayfield to be related to. And Curtis Mayfield was a brilliant. But this Julian Mayfield guy, it kind of speaks to my spirit right now, the work that I'm doing, because he was a media person. He was a revolutionary. He did work with Castro down to Cuba. He actually helped Robert F. Williams and Mabel Williams escape in his car. He helped drive them to Canada in his car. They made it to Mexico, and then they went to Cuba, from my understanding. That's my cousin, Julian Mayfield, did that. So, Yeah, this Panther movie is interesting. Y'all should check it out because Dick Gregory, like I said, he was very critical of Eldridge Cleaver and Huey P. Newton. So he was approached by Melvin Van Peebles, right? And he wasn't no part of it. And then Melvin said, "Hey, you read my script, man? Look at the script. It exposes the government involvement in flooding the black communities with drugs." Like that's why he agreed to do the movie because it helped to expose the government's involvement in flooding the black community with drugs. That's why Dick Gregory decided to do that movie. Just like you just had Bob Marley's birthday, and Bob Marley wanted Dick to do that big concert with him, that historic concert. And Dick said, "I don't want no part of it." I could play that clip, but basically was saying that look, you did this song called Buffalo Soldier. And I like the song, it's very catchy, but he said the Buffalo Soldiers were a disgrace because they did the bidding, the dirty work of the white man to rob the Native Americans of their land. See, the West could not be won without black folks' participation. We are the best soldiers on the planet. But when it comes time to our liberation, we don't want to bleed or fight or die for it. But like Malcolm X said, if the white man send you to Korea, you bleed for the white man in Korea. You bleed for him in Korea, but you won't bleed for your own kind in Mississippi. See, this is the contradictions of black people and of our existence that we need white folks to validate us for everything. We can't do anything unless white folks sign off on it. Our lives don't mean anything unless white folks take our lives. This is weird. Black people, we are weird. So-called black people. I know y'all got other names, but I'm gonna say black people, whatever. Because how we act void of a void. We had no knowledge of self or self-love, it seems. So, with that said, check out the Panther movie because, like, I like the fact what Judas and the Black Messiah did in terms of showing the direct hand of this government in assassinating an American citizen under horrible and questionable concerns. Like, I saw an interview that Bobby Rush, Congressman Bobby Rush, not the blues singer, both of them got Chicago connections, but Bobby Rush, who was the right hand man, the wing man for Fred Hampton in the Black Panther Party up there in Illinois. I saw he did an interview with the Griot, and it's worth checking out. It's under 20 minutes. Bobby Rush had to have surgery on his jaw because of the type of cancer in the salivary gland, whatever you call it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But he sound kind of weak, like he's in a poor health right now. Prayers go out to him and his family. Hope he be all right. But he was just talking about how Fred Hampton's assassination is the only state-sponsored assassination in American history. Now, you say, wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. I said, what do you mean by that, right? What did he mean by that? That was the only state-sponsored assassination in American history. You got to really think about, don't be so quick to react. Let him say we got to say. So he talked about Abraham Lincoln. There wasn't state-sponsored assassination. There was not a state-sponsored assassination. He said JFK was not a state-sponsored assassination. Malcolm. And what he's saying is, to me, how I take it, because, it was always an inside job as far as I'm concerned. The gun that killed Dr. King could be traced back in terms of possession, go back to the FBI. Yeah, but the floor plan, they took out Fred Hampton, came from the FBI. They had the informant, William O'Neill. He provided his handler, Ryan Mitchell, with the floor plan, right? With the layout. So that's directly FBI. Then Hoover talks about preventing the rise of a black messiah. So that's definitely was the agenda of the FBI. And he said that the Black Panther Party was the greatest internal threat to the security of the United States. Why? Because they were providing free breakfast to the kids before school, because they were providing free health care and sickle cell testing for the community. Why was they the greatest internal threat? Because it's about electrifying the masses. The Black Messiah is not just for black people. See, y'all don't get it, right? Y'all don't get it. It's not just about your color, man. It's about your mindset. Like Dick Gregory said, white is an attitude. And a lot of folks can't afford the attitude. So a lot of people we think are white are not white, and we mad at the wrong so-called white people. Fred Hampton overstood it at 21, that them poor peckerwoods, whatever you want to call them, crackers and stuff from Appalachia, they ain't my problem. Our problem is that they want poor people to be divided and conquered so they can stay in control. See, really, Fred Hampton was a revival of Bacon's Rebellion. Now I'm gonna give y'all some homework. I'm not gonna talk about there's too much to cover here. I'm trying to keep it in 2 hours. Like I said, my movie reviews are not really just about the movie. But Bacon's Rebellion, look up Bacon's Rebellion. What Fred Hampton was doing was like kind of like a remake of Bacon's Rebellion with the Rainbow Coalition. And the powers that be could not allow that. It's the same thing like you look at Marcus Garvey, really the first COINTEL victim as far as the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I know Judge O'Brien talking about Jack Johnson. Okay, yeah, the Mann Act, man, that was very blatant. They made a law because they ain't like Jack Johnson sleeping with white women. So they made this stupid law saying that if you transport women across state lines for immoral purposes, you're in violation of the so-called Mann Act, right? But Jack Johnson was married to white women. So it is what it is, but it's like it was about, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Marcus Garvey not only inspired the black masses, he not only electrified the black masses, but Ho Chi Minh, the leader of the Viet Cong resistance. Ho Chi Minh, Ho Chi Minh, Ho Chi Minh, Ho Chi Minh, Ho Chi Minh. Y'all know I'm talking about the leader of the Northern Viet Cong resistance. Used to come to America to listen to Marcus Garvey speak in Harlem. This is documented. He used to come all the way over from where he was at in Vietnam, whatever. He'll come to America to listen to Marcus Garvey speak. And think about what happened decades later with Vietnam War. That's a war we lost, not because we see Vietnam is interesting. United States didn't really lose anything militarily speaking. We didn't have any battles we necessarily lost. We lost the war of public opinion, of perception. And that's a war we could not win because the enemy was willing to die for what they wanted. A lot of us ain't willing to die. We want to make a deal. We want to live. We like to have the finer things in life. These people won because they were willing to die for what they want. They didn't care about living if they couldn't have what they want in life. Because to them, not having what they wanted in life was not living. A lot of us are not living our real, truest, best lives. Dr. King said himself, if a man ain't willing to die for anything, he ain't fit to live. So you really walking dead. A lot of us just walking dead. We think we live, we're not living. We're like living vicariously through reality TV shows or through football, sports, and stuff like that, through celebrity and gossip. And we're not really living us. And therein lies the problem. So you really are already just walking dead. A lot of us just walking dead. So Marcus Garvey inspired Ho Chi Minh. Or Ho Chi Minh. Now, Ho Chi Minh tried to talk to Woodrow Wilson when they're doing that peace treaty, all that stuff in Paris after World War I. Woodrow Wilson didn't want to meet with Ho Chi Minh. He tried to talk to because that Declaration of Independence is based on our Declaration of Independence. So Ho Chi Minh, who was born on May 19th like Malcolm X, Ho Chi Minh is a Taurus, was born May 19th like Malcolm X. Also, Lorraine Hansberry, who wrote Raisin in the Sun, was also born on May 19th like Malcolm X. She also died the same year as Malcolm. I believe she died in January of 65 from leukemia. And her uncle was the famous Egyptian scholar, William Leo Hansberry. That was her uncle. And y'all come from Amite, Mississippi. Amite County. I think it's called Amite County. It's the Amite County, Mississippi. So her folks from Mississippi. And her uncle was the famous Egyptian scholar, William Leo Hansberry, who did work, I believe, at Howard University. So they was all born on May 19th. Lorraine Hansberry, Malcolm X, and Ho Chi Minh. May 19th. Interesting, right? So FBI made their bones by taking down Marcus Garvey. The first black FBI agent, Agent 800, was hired to neutralize Marcus Garvey. James Wormley Jones, World War I veteran, and also former DC detective, Washington DC detective. So this is why I do what I do. I said this many times in many different episodes, but repetition, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is not insanity. It's called learning. It's called learning. You learn through repetition. See how we've been programmed to think. I tell you about Charlie Parker. He used to practice on the saxophone for 11 to 15 hours a day for 4 years. So was that is insanity? Yeah, it's insanity because in order to get amazing results, you got to do things over and over again. You got to learn repetition. You got to familiarize yourself with the text, with what you're trying to do, things, and put it in context and what you're trying to do. Another Virgo, Fred Hampton, memorized Malcolm's speeches. He used to repeat Malcolm's speeches every day. Why do you think he was able to become such a great orator? He used to listen to Malcolm on repeat. This man was had a command of the language at 21. That's why he was such a threat to the government. That's why they took him out. This man was able to organize people at 14. He had grew their NACP youth council 700 members strong in Maywood, and the government took notice. Look what he was able to do. And somebody said he was in the Black Panther Party for 6 months. I don't believe that. Maybe it was like a year. He had to be close to a year. He probably was there right after Dr. King got assassinated. Somebody in Chicago who know about the Panthers, tell us, how long was Chairman Fred actually in the Panther Party? I got to get Chairman Fred Jr. on here and his beautiful fiance, Mother Akuwa Nigeria. I would love to get him back on. I never had her on, but I had her son on. It was like long overdue. But how long was Fred Hampton in the party? He didn't live that long. He was 21 years young. So he was already a threat, but he was a Virgo like Charlie Parker, like Kobe Bryant. So he learned Malcolm's speeches, repetition. He had a speech impediment. He had a speaking problem. You know, it's like people who end up becoming great communicators, they have speech problems. Like I had speech problems growing up. I had to go to speech therapy growing up. You know, people like complain about my speaking now, but I actually had to go to speech therapy growing up. People couldn't understand what the hell I was saying. That's why I used to draw a lot. I used to draw pictures a lot so people could understand what the hell I was talking about. But I started drawing when I was 2 years old. So let's show you my life. But think about Samuel Jackson or James Earl Jones. They all had stuttering problems and stuff like that. Great actors, great communicators. So that's a thing that you got to overcome. And I'm a Taurus, and we're known for being able to be great communicators. Malcolm was a Taurus. I just told you, Ho Chi Minh, Tauruses, Lorraine Hansberry, Taurus. Okay. On and on and on and on and on and on. So, what the hell I'm talking about? But Black people, know who you are. And let's talk about the Mac. And y'all gotta see the movie The Panther because it talks about what was laid out, like what Bobby Rush said, right? Bobby Rush said that this was the only state-sponsored assassination in American history, not because it wasn't the only state-sponsored, but because you got the court trial. He had one time the longest civil trial in American history over what happened, the wrongful deaths of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. And a lot of us, we forget about Mark Clark. Mark Clark was a soldier, man. I had listened to an interview that Mike Moore, I didn't listen to the interview Mike Moore did with Fred Hampton Jr. and director of the movie Shaka King of Judas and the Black Messiah. He also, in that same segment or in that interview podcast on his YouTube channel, he did an interview with Mark Clark's sister, who her and her mom just moved to Flint, Michigan at the time because their father just died in May of 69. So they had a lot of loss. They lost the patriarch of their family in 69, also lost her brother who was a true freedom fighter and lover of Black people. And they'll try to convince Mark Clark to go to Flint with them. And he refused. He said, look, this may be the last time you see me. That's how much he loved our people. He knew that he was a marked man because this is several weeks after Jake Winters. They portrayed that situation where Jake Winters killed up 2 police officers in the movie. Now in the film, they got him in some type of weird plant place. But it took place on the south side of Chicago. They took place in the neighborhood district of Chicago on the south side. That shootout that Jake Winters did with the police. They killed 2 police officers. They took his life. But he already knew that Black Panthers were targeted in Chicago. He already knew that he was a dead man walking. The man was just 22 years young. Fred Hampton was just 21, but they knew that their lives, they called it revolutionary suicide. Like they wasn't suicidal, but they were so committed to loving and serving their people that they didn't mind paying the ultimate cost. It goes back what Dr. King said, that if a man ain't willing to die for anything, he ain't fit to live. So that's how the mindset that Fred Hampton and Mark Clark and all them guys had. It wasn't that they were crazy. They thought it was crazy for folks to be submitting themselves to an inhumane and insane system that did not respect your full humanity. That's really what's an insanity, like what we're doing now. Like people keep on saying, what happened to them? We're going through it now. The reason why we're going through the stuff now is because we refuse to take a solid stand on something. We teach our kids to fear the police, to fear that, to fear this, instead of like be willing to put your life on the line for what you really want. Why are you willingly submitting yourself to be sheep's led to slaughter? Put your life on the line for something meaningful. Live a meaningful life. A lot of us are not living meaningful lives. Therein lies the problem. Fred Hampton in 21 led a full, a vigorous, a meaningful life. His death has not been in vain. To this day, they still shooting up this man's tombstone down in Haynesville, Louisiana, where he's buried in his family plot. You got so-called law enforcement people come to his damn tombstone to shoot it up. It's all pockmarked. I may show it before the end of tonight. The man been dead for 50 something years. But the thing about it is, like he said, you kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. You can jail a revolutionary, but you can't jail the revolution. You understand? It's like Medgar Evers said to himself, you could kill a man, but you can't kill the ideas. Once the ideas out there, Malcolm wanted before he died, he said, I want to be more dangerous dead than alive. Malcolm is still dangerous. Black folks still afraid of Malcolm. We still afraid to quote Malcolm. We still afraid to deal with Malcolm and what he represented. We want to forget about Malcolm, but you can't forget about Malcolm no longer than you could forget about Fred Hampton. And that's another thing. That's why COINTELPRO is real. Because Fred Hampton, H. Rap Brown, Bunchy Carter, our apprentice Bunchy Carter, they all had the gift of gab. Like, if you think about it, they could have been rappers today. Because they was a lot. Bunchy Carter was a poet, and Fred was very poetic. He had a very much of command of the English language. Look at Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. Look at H. Rap Brown. Something about a black man that know how to move the crowd. That's a threat to a system of racism, which religion is white supremacy. See, the racism is a system. White supremacy is not the system, it's the religion. There's some of the people who are practitioners of racism believe in. Even the oppressed people, a lot of us believe in white supremacy as a religion. So, with that said, COINTELPRO is real. That's why Tupac is interesting. Tupac, some people believe his mom made a deal, allegedly, with the powers that be, get out of jail free card. Not really, but Tupac was sacrificed. But Tupac is in the mold of a Fred Hampton, of a Bunchy Carter. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of these rappers, Nipsey Hussle, a lot of these guys. But the thing about it is, hip hop is interesting. It's a people's tool. It's a people's tool for empowerment and the powers that be tool to oppress and suppress and repress the people. Hip hop resurrected the memory of Malcolm X, of Fred Hampton, of the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Movement. But also hip hop brought us crack music, death row. See, your words create worlds. You think about, Biggie. First album was called Ready to Die. Second album was called what? Life After Death. When did it come out? After he was dead. You think about Tupac, the songs he was singing about dying an early death and all this stuff. Your words create worlds. Like, black people, man, when we do stuff like that, it's a ritual. We're a universal people. We are very connected to the universe and to the spirit world and all this stuff. So we just can't play act. A lot of times we be bringing stuff, manifesting things to existence we don't even understand. That's why you got to be careful how you talk on yourself. I got to mind how I talk down. I say I can't talk. I got to stop talking down on myself. Uplift yourself. Uplift your people. Think about the music. Think about my cousin's Curtis Mayfield. Think about Marvin Gaye. Think about we just lost Mary Wilson. Mary Wilson was the one that encouraged Marvin Gaye to pursue his magnum opus. What's going on? Barry Gordy is a businessman. He said, I don't want, Marvin Gaye did that album, Hear My Dear. He got divorced from Barry Gordy's sister, who was much older than him. But he did, I guess, that album as a way to pay alimony. I love Marvin Gaye. But Marvin Gaye uses mental illness to make genius music. Like, Marvin Gaye will be talking to himself on the record. I love it. But Mary Wilson encouraged him to do that. You think about how the music was produced back in the day with the live instrumentation. Or you think about the fact that a lot of the hits, the pop hits that Motown made came from master jazz musicians. It's like you talking about the Funk Brothers, right? In the shadows of Motown. Think about James Jamerson from South Carolina, from the Islands. Man, one of the greatest bass guitar players of all time, if not the greatest bass guitar player of all time. Think about even Memphis got a connection to Motown. Tony Pistol Allen, who passed away, I want to say either around 2002 or 2003. But he went to Manassas High School where Jimmy Lunsford started jazz studies for the first time in any formal music educational setting. Jimmy Lunsford started something that was fantastic back in the 20s, took his best high school students and became the #1 swing band for black people in the 30s and 40s in this country. The music hero of Miles Davis, Horace Silver, and Quincy Jones. He came from that Manassas. Tony Pistol Allen, look him up. He was a drummer on some of the most important Motown recordings in music history. You know, playing behind Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye and anybody you can name of. That's Tony Pistol Allen. So from Memphis. So this stuff is real, man. They have co-opted our music. You know, they have killed our stars. They have co-opted our message, changed our beat, everything. But you think about it was hip-hop culture, young people that resurrected the memory of Malcolm. It wasn't Spike Lee. Spike Lee was able to do the Malcolm X movie because of hip-hop resurrecting Malcolm X. Because of Karis Ones, the Public Enemies, the X-Clan, Queen Latifah, all them people talking about these people, Huey P. Newton, the Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton. Hip-hop brought them back into the consciousness. Tupac knew about Fred Hampton. Tupac knew about Huey P. Newton. He was a Panther Cub. You know, he was trying to lead his own Black Panther thing back in the day when he was in his late teens, early 20s. And they co-opted Tupac and said, you know, but I'm going all over the place. It's so much to know, man, because this is who I am. I mean, do you understand what it is to be me? Y'all don't even understand what it is to be me. I have dead people talking to me. I be doing weird videos in the cemetery, right? Dancing on the graves, and people might think that's disrespectful, but the dead, the spirits communicate with me. And sometimes I just don't want to feel like doing this stuff. Like I'd be like, oh my God, do I have to do this? Why? But it'd be on my mind. And I got to share this information. Like I said, I don't miss Dick Gregory like a lot of y'all miss. I hear Dick Gregory in my head every day. Man, I be seeing reminders of Dick Gregory. Things be popping up. It's crazy. Like people, the dead can communicate, and they're not dead because energy don't die. But what I'm saying, like, you know, Tesla say you communicate with aliens and shit. I believe him. These folks be talking to me, but almost an hour. I hope I'm doing something right by y'all. I know I be all over the place. Jesus. But let's talk about the Mac. I want to talk about this. This is why I like it. But look at the Panther, right? Bobby Seale said, not Bobby Seale, but Bobby Rush. I keep on getting out from Bobby Rush. But he was saying that was the only state-sponsored assassination of his comrade, Fred Hampton. Because you do the civil trial, you see all the evidence against the government of them implementing this. It's not just the Chicago Police Department. It's not just Mayor Daley. It's not even just the state attorney's office. It's actually the federal government that crucified and killed this man in his bed. This boy, his man-child. He's not even a man, but he's a man. Killed this man in his bed at 21, sleeping next to his pregnant fiance. You got the paper trail that shows that. Not only that, Senator Frank Church, the senator from Idaho, look at the Church Committee reports and stuff from the 70s. They exposed COINTELPRO. They exposed the counterintelligence program for public record. And Fred Hampton was targeted by the federal government. This cannot be debated. This is actual factuals. The fact that Roy Mitchell, who was the handler of William O'Neill, he had 9 informants in the Black Panther Party in Chicago, in Illinois. He had 9 informants that included William O'Neill. So we don't even know who all the people were involved. Until the Freedom of Information Act, until they released some of these files, he had 9 people in there. So the Panthers were very compromised from the get-go. I talked about that Japanese-American guy, right? Who was one of the co-founders, one of the first members of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. He was an FBI. It's an agent provocateur. He committed suicide within the last, 10 years. This guy was the gun connect for the Panther Party. Remember how the Panthers went to the state capitol when Reagan was the governor of California, doing all that, Grandmaster Jay grandstanding, and how they caused them to repeal the law or make a new law. You can't carry around your weapons, whatever. And that was based on them. They didn't want black folks to have arms, but we like to grandstand and show off, and it costs us. And stuff is real, man. History is on repeat, my man. History is on repeat. And yeah, so you got the evidence of the government actually killing this man and Mark Clark. You can't, it's no, oh man, it's there's many theories on this. No, we got the proof where the government had to settle with the families and survivors for 1.85 million back in 1982. This is public record. This is not up for debate. And people, it tripped me out. I got some people that follow me. They say, well, it's a black woman that stabbed MLK. Yeah, I know that in Harlem when you're doing a book signing. And William O'Neill was a black man, but William O'Neill is controlled by the government. We all are under control of this system until we raise up and rise up and create another alternative to existence. We all slaves by another name to this system. So how you gonna talk bad about William O'Neill when you pay taxes to a government that violates you every day? You just as guilty. We just as guilty as William O'Neill. We kill each other every day. What about abortions? People talking about COVID. What about abortions? How many people get killed via abortion? How many black folks been getting killed since abortion became legal? You gotta look at things in this bigger context and start hiding the contradictions. As Huey P. Newton and Chairman Fred Singer would say, heighten the contradictions, man. Y'all look at things in the microcosm too small when it's a bigger thing at play. It's a bigger picture. So now I'm not gonna hate no black person because they program me to hate myself. No, I gotta love myself, and when I love myself, I can love my people in spite of their choices in life. That's how you deal with it. You gotta, have some self-love. You gotta reprogram yourself before you worry about how other people may think or perceive things. That's where I'm at right now in my journey is working on myself. I can't save nobody else, but I can save myself. But I can't share what I think about and what I know with y'all. I think that's very important. So what Bobby Rush was saying was not necessarily that the state was not involved, but you just can't refute the fact that the state did kill Fred Hampton Jr. Senior, excuse me. They tried to kill Fred Hampton Jr. That's another thing, the connection of hip hop to Fred Hampton. Because like I said, Fred Hampton would have been a rapper if he was living that. They turned out rappers, they turned out revolutionaries to rappers. That's why Tupac was kind of conflicted, because really he was a revolutionary, but he was trying to be a rapper at the same, and it cost him. But then it caught up with Huey too. Huey got shot down by a so-called member of the Black Guerrilla family. And we all know that the Black Guerrilla family was founded by George Jackson. He was one of the founding members of the Black Guerrilla family, who was the field marshal for the Black Panther Party, who got killed in San Quentin back in August of 71, which led to the Attica uprisings in September of 1971. George Jackson was a powerful brother. Brother had a lot of swag and intellect. See, they scared of a masculine black man with knowledge of self and a love to serve his people and even to fight and die for his people. George Jackson, read his writings, but they assassinated him in San Quentin in August of 71, Black August. I want to say it was August 21st, 1971. They killed Huey, a Black guerrilla family member allegedly killed Huey in the streets of Oakland. August 22nd, 1989. He was 47 years young. Dr. Huey P. Newton. Dr. Huey P. Newton, he couldn't even read and write. Graduated from high school. He was functional illiterate. Just like Jeff Fort was functionally illiterate. You know how powerful we are as black people? Y'all understand the magic that we bring to this world? We are the envy of the world. That's why the world treats us the way we do, the way it does. And we treat ourselves so horribly because we lack the knowledge that what the world knows about us. We don't even understand who we really are. But a lot of the people that run the world understand who we are, and understand our value, and they want to downplay us and treat us like we idiots. And a lot of us are willfully ignorant. But ain't that ironic that George Jackson's Black guerrilla family ended up allegedly killing Huey? Who was, George Jackson was the field marshal for the Black Panther Party. But and his brother died for the cause the year before 1970. Jonathan Jackson was just 17 years young. But read the works of George Jackson. And thank you, Brother DeMarcus, for the donation. We love you, Brother DeMarcus Morris. We love you, Matt Lee. And Sunday Akoli, yeah. There's a lot of people, man. Not just, there's a lot of people. Our people, man, we missed the opportunity with Trump. We could got a lot of our people out, or some of our people out, man. We got to be better mobilized as black people, man. We too busy talking about cultural politics. What I call myself. You call yourself oppressed. If an FBA, ADOS, Aboriginal, African American, call yourself oppressed. That's what you are. You oppressed. We can't agree on that. But check out the Panther movie. And also check out Fred Hampton movie, the Judas and the Black Messiah. Now people say that's not a biopic about Fred Hampton. It was a biopic. It is a biopic about Fred Hampton, but they had to present it in a way where it could get made. It would, it couldn't be presented in a straightforward way. Because look how I talk about the problems that they had making Malcolm X. Well, Spike Lee didn't have enough money at first. He had to go to black people to get that made. And also talking about the Panther movie that Melvin Van Peebles wrote and Mario Van Peebles directed. Who he also played Stokely Carmichael Kwame Ture in the Panther movie. Mario Van Peebles did. He also played Malcolm X in the Ali movie that Michael Mann made. Excuse me. But Bill Cosby gave Melvin Van Peebles the money to make Sweetback Badass Song, one of the game-changing black exploitation movies. Bill Cosby gave him the money for that. And Maurice White and Earth, Wind, and Fire did the soundtrack for Melvin Van Peebles' Sweetback Badass Song. Y'all need to check out Sweetback Badass Song. Cool. Hollywood saw, black exploitation movies saved Hollywood in the 70s. Hollywood was losing a lot of money back in the 70s. Y'all keep on thinking, that was an era of the great white directors like, Francis Ford Coppola, Godfather, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Peter Bogdanovich, Martin Scorsese. But really, it was black cinema that saved Hollywood. And they'll never get the props. It's like the Negro Leagues were making more money than the Major League. But y'all think it's an honor that the Major Leagues acknowledge the Negro Leagues when they should be paying reparations to the descendants of the people who own teams in the Negro Leagues. The Major Leagues poach a lot of the black talent from the Negro Leagues and never compensated the Negro Leagues for poaching the black talent. So they owe the people, descendants who folks own those teams, they owe them reparations. See, y'all got to understand, y'all getting y'all emotions. I didn't care about Herschel Walker, what he had to say today. It didn't bother me. Herschel Walker don't speak for black people. Herschel Walker is not Paul Robeson. Herschel Walker was a great, phenomenal athlete and a freak of nature of a human specimen, but he's not the spokesperson for black people. So it didn't offend me. But what we got to understand is you make the case of reparations for what they did to Fred Hampton. When you understand what happened to Fred Hampton from the American government, that's part of the reparations case. You stole our leadership. You destroyed our leadership. You undermined the unity in our community. American government. See, you gotta understand. Then you gotta look at. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You understand? Y'all talking about Ice Cube got this contract with Black America. A lot of our righteous ancestors had contracts that they wanted to get on behalf of Black Americans. You can even go back to John Horse and Abraham. The Seminole Wars. They had contracts and stuff and negotiations that were not honored by the so-called United States of America. So, but you got to know that history, though. It's like, I'm not going to fight my own brothers and sisters about how many of us came from Africa and how many of us was here. Y'all both right. Can y'all see y'all both right? That's really like an argument that ain't even worth pursuing. My thing is, show what this government did to black people for generations and decades. Talk about the People's Grocery Lynching. Talk about the Memphis Race Massacre, 1866. Talk about the Wilmington Insurrection of 1898. Talk about Black Wall Street, 1921. Rosewood, 1923. Elaine, Arkansas, 1919. What they did to Isidore Banks in 1950s. Talk about all this stuff. Create a red record. Now, Ida B. Wells had a thing. She was the mother of American investigative journalism. She had a pamphlet called The Red Record, where she talked about some of the lynchings that occurred throughout the country during that time period. We need to be witnesses of our own story to create the narrative. Not always counter the narrative, but to create a narrative. I'm not waiting for New York Times to tell my story, or Steven Spielberg or Netflix. There's no need for that. We got the technology. Y'all happy? PBS talk about the black church. So what? Okay, good. They interviewed me and they didn't put my footage in there, but I'm in the credits. Why don't you just take the time to tell your story on your platform? Upload it to Facebook. Do a Facebook Live. Do YouTube. Record this stuff. Put it out Vimeo. I don't care. Why are you waiting for white folks to co-sign your struggle to validate you in your existence and your contribution as a human being? When we taught them all they know, they come out of us. We don't come out of them. Black man and woman are the parents of civilization. The black man, woman, and child is the Trinity. But yeah, y'all want white folks to co-sign every. I don't even want them to co-sign on anything I'm trying to buy anyway. A house or a car. I don't care. What I'm saying is we gotta got that mindset where, Grammy, Oscars, Tonys, Emmys mean anything to us to validate our success. We didn't need no white folks to tell us that Cicely Tyson was great, that Miles Davis is great. Do we? But I'm just going out. I had things I had lined up. I could get this under 2 hours, but let me see. Let's talk about the movie The Mac and Huey Newton's connection to the movie The Black Panther Party. Like I said, Judge went to school with Max Julian, junior high school. Man, Judge Brown's a fascinating dude. He got to be the most interesting man in the world. He go around flipping sharks and stuff. Getting in shootouts and home invasions over the King assassination. Man, I want the movie. Judge Brown need a movie. Like he like the real life Dolomite or something. I don't know what's up, Judge. But let me see. Trying to find. Thank y'all for being patient. It's a lot to get into. All right, the Ward brothers, light skinned brigade. Them brothers from people thought they were from New Orleans, they're really from Alabama. And I want to say this is Frank Ward right here. That's his brother, but it's Frank Ward, I believe. See how they dress, man? Cold players, dog. Cold player. He's a Taurus. He was a Taurus, born May 20th, 1940, down in Alabama. And that's Frank Ward, the inspiration for Goldie in the Mac. That's Max Julian character that he played in the Mac. Frank Ward was a consultant, and he protected the set while he was filming the movie in Oakland. Let me talk about that a little bit. Read some stuff into that. It's so much history. This Black History Month. Y'all ain't know who Frank Ward was. And people who are fans of the Mac should know about this backstory about Frank Ward and the Ward brothers in Oakland. And if you're really a true fan. But I'm gonna read a couple takes on this situation. Because Frank Ward was killed back October 9th, 1972. And he was sitting in his Rolls Royce with one of his bottom girls, and they both were killed while they were sitting in his car. They was assassinated, shot up in his Rolls Royce. The Rolls Royce back on October 9th, 1972. Let me read some takes on that. And thank y'all for being patient. So much pimp bones in my body. Lottie. But I get this from the 10 Pimp Commandments, Secrets of the Game, a post they did in Facebook, February 1st, 2017. Mac history. Frank D. Ward and Ted Ward of the infamous Ward brothers. The Ward brothers include Frank, Ted, Andrew, and Willie, originally from Alabama, not New Orleans, as assumed by many. These brothers became the biggest racketeers in the San Francisco, Oakland area, known as the Bay. In addition to being stomped down pimps, drug dealers, and gangsters, they were savvy businessmen as well. They had apartment buildings, pool halls, barbershops, various retail stores, and other legal holdings. Frank Ward was the original Mac of all trades. He was very fly and flashy. He had a closet full of furs, expensive Italian shark-skin suits, brims, gaiters, and fine silk shirts. He gave $100 tips back in the late 60s and early 70s. Think about that, $100 tips. You know how far $100 would go back then? You know how far a dollar would go back then? The motion picture, The Mac, was based around Frank's life. He and his brothers bankrolled the movie. The whips in the film, whips mean cars, y'all, all belonged to the Ward brothers, even the one Goldie was driving. It is alleged that because of the making of this movie, along with prior conflicting agendas and ongoing local politics with the Black Panther Party, mainly Huey P. Newton, a hit was put out on Frank. The Panthers didn't like how the Ward brothers were selling drugs in the community and how they had sisters on the block turning tricks. Though the Panthers were initially infuriated by the making of the movie, they turned their heads to the activity in exchange for monetary payoffs from the wards. But when the kickbacks stopped, due to more and more greedy demands from the Panthers, they decided to make a move on Frank. Subsequently, Frank and his bottom broad, Blanche, were both murdered. They were both shot in the head while sitting in his new Rolls Royce in Berkeley. He was 32 years young. He never got to see the film finish. Years later, on August 22nd, 1989, the former Panther leader, Huey P. Newton, himself was gunned down in Oakland. It is said that he was killed while robbing a crack dealer. However, it is also said that it was inter-party politics, a planned hit. Whatever the case, we must all learn from this. What goes around comes around, Jack. That's the universal law. You dig? So that's one take. That's from the 10 Pimp Commandments, Secrets of the Game. I did some ad-libbing in it, but yeah, look up this Google Frank Ward Pimp, and they'll pop up. So also I want to read what I got from another source from Wikipedia about the situation. And it's all about hiding the contradictions, how we learn. But who else is doing this in new black media? How we breaking it down and we all be? Nobody. Who does it like me? Nobody. Okay, I'm stop. Background into production. How this movie came off. And according to director Michael Campus, the original script for the film was written on prison toilet paper by Bobby Poole, an inmate in San Quentin. Now, where did George Jackson get killed? San Quentin. While staying, he got assassinated. Not just killed, he was assassinated by the state. While staying in Oakland for 2 months, Campus met Frank Ward, a real pimp and drug dealer from Oakland. Max Julian's character of Goldie is based upon him. In order to shoot the movie, Campus needed Ward's permission because many scenes were filmed in his territory. In exchange for his guidance and protection, Campus put Ward in the film. All the homeless people, junkies, pimps, and women in the film were supplied by Frank Ward. Although Campus had Ward's protection, the film was also in Black Panther territory. During the filming, Black Panther Party members would throw bottles and trash cans from rooftops. In order for filming to run smoothly, an additional deal had to be made with Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, who were then put in charge of providing extras for the film. About halfway through the production of the film, Frank Ward was shot and killed while in his Rolls Royce, along with his bottom girl, I think named Blanche. There were speculation that the Black Panthers were responsible for Ward's death, and the filmmakers and the cast relocated to safer areas for filming. Despite the tension, the film's opening was shot in Oakland, with all the proceeds going to the Black Panthers breakfast program. So the film was screened in theaters in only about 20 mostly black communities. Distributors avoided theaters in predominantly white neighborhoods due to a belief that the film would do better in black areas. Despite its low distribution, director Michael Campus has noted that the film outgrossed The Godfather in the cities in which it's played. That's interesting, y'all. A lot of information here. But I would love to see a movie about the making of the Mac that talks about the Frank Ward story. That talks about the Franks. I mean, it's crazy. This stuff is insane. Black history is better than science fiction on any Hollywood movie. So how many of y'all knew about that Frank Ward story? Stuff is crazy. I think that Frank Ward to the left. And to add to that, who killed Frank Ward? He made a lot of enemies, right? He's very successful in what he did, drug dealing, pimping, ran the Bay. I mean, you people from Cali, man, that was back there in that time, y'all can tell us about the real deal. How accurate is that? But if you go back to the documentary Power to the People that I talked about that came out in the late 90s, it should be on YouTube or something. Just look up Power to the People, Black Panther documentary. I've been knowing about Fred Hampton for 20 something years, man. It's been with me for 20 something years. You listen to Dead Prez, they talk about Fred Hampton. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop resurrect the memories of our righteous ancestors, but hip hop has been co-opted by the powers that be to sell poison to our people. And it's a person who like listen to Meg Thee Stallion. I do listen to Meg Thee Stallion. I listen to Kodak Black. I listen to a lot of people. Also, I listen to Charlie Parker and Billie Holiday, Nina Simone. I got a wide eclectic musical taste. Okay, Bob Marley, whatever. But now, Bobby Seale said the reason why the Panthers broke up was because Huey was too interested in trying to take over the drug trade. That's coming from Bobby Seale, co-founder, somebody who knew Huey intimately. They were partners and visionaries, in this thing. He said one of the reasons because some of the Panthers like Huey wanted to take over the drug trade. He said, no, we got to break this up. Just like a lot of Panthers didn't trust Elaine Brown either. I know Judge got the thing with Elaine Brown, but read her book, A Taste of Power. And she talks about her relationship with J. Richard Kennedy, the former manager of Harry Belafonte, but also MK Ultra mind control specialist for the U.S. government, for U.S. intelligence. So I'm hiding the contradictions. But that is interesting. He would get killed like that under questionable circumstances. Like they said, it was a planned hit. It was an inside job. A lot of Black Panthers got killed like that from their own. You think about in the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, that scene with George Sams going to different safe houses, exposing the Panthers, also torturing and killing Panthers on behalf of the government. That actually happened. So a lot of Black Panthers end up killing other Panthers under suspicion of being snitches and stuff like that. Really, it was the snitches killing other Black Panthers or killing legitimate Black Panthers. So, I mean, the Black Panther Party was compromised. Like, even you go back to, like I said, Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mom. She was set up by Eugene Roberts, who was Malcolm X's bodyguard, chief bodyguard. He was the guy who's trying to give him life-to-life resuscitation, blowing in his mouth while he got holes in his chest. What type of sense that make? And so he ended up becoming a Panther and set up Afeni Shakur and the Panther 21. That's Eugene Roberts. That's undercover police NYPD Bossy program. So there's a lot to take in here. But yeah, that story about Frank Ward, that's an interesting story. That could be a hell of a movie. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's read through the comments. There's a lot to take in. I love Miles Davis, man. Miles Davis, one of the greatest band leaders of all time. Your life is what you make it to be. Your life is your movie. Your life is your movie. It's what you make it to be. Let me see. It's some other stuff I want to talk about. I'm trying to get it under 2 hours. I think I covered a lot of what I want to get out there. But let me see. Let's see what I can do. Just looking up some stuff. The internet is fascinating. Let's utilize it the best we can while we still can. Okay. I know what I'm gonna do. Play this clip. No, we talking about Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm gonna play this again that I played before last year. And thank y'all for being patient. I appreciate it. Play this clip. We all be in it to win it, man. Y'all reminded how deep this stuff go. You reminded how deep this stuff go. Stop.
This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News Free Dixie for the 21st century.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. McCullough.
Yes,
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. My name is Ron Hurd. I was calling. Are you Mr. McCullough? Are you from Memphis, Tennessee?
Yes.
And I was calling because I'm doing some research on Dr. King. Are you the same McCullough that was in Memphis the day that Dr. King got killed?
Yeah.
I just want to. Are you available to ask questions?
No. I don't do interviews.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But you are the same McCullough. You was there the day he got killed.
Oh sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but were you CIA at the time?
I don't answer questions. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you.
That was that was, I'm not laughing because it's funny, but it's not funny. That was Morrell McCullough. That's the guy. When you see that famous picture of Dr. King on the balcony, laid out like that, bleeding from his body, he was the guy checking to see if Dr. King was dead. Now, he was undercover Memphis police, military intelligence, undercover with the Memphis Invaders. That's our version of the Black Panther Party. The Memphis Invaders were security for Dr. King, but they were told to leave like an hour before Dr. King was assassinated. See, these guys had guns on them. They believe in self-defense and the Second Amendment, and they were told to leave. Some people say it was Jesse Jackson. They told them to leave, allegedly, from a room they had a room paid for by the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and they were told to leave like an hour before King was assassinated. Because had they probably stayed, it probably could have been a shootout. I don't know. Because like Judge believed that the assassin shot Dr. King from the fire station. Now you had two black firemen that was told to leave the fire station. And he had Officer Ed Reddick, who was doing surveillance for the Memphis Police Department, a black man who I interviewed for an hour for We All Be. They forced him out of the fire station. But some people think the shot came from the bushes. I think New York Times journalist Ron Caldwell, I think that's his name. He's a professor, was a professor down at Hampton University. He's a black man reporting for New York Times. He said he saw smoke coming from the bushes. Then you had Buddy, the taxi cab driver, who allegedly got thrown off the bridge into the Mississippi River. Supposedly, he saw somebody dressed in a police officer uniform coming out the bushes. I don't know. And allegedly, the police officer who killed Dr. King, who shot him, is still around, but judge believe was military. And military was in town. Operation Lantern Spike. Look up Operation Lantern Spike. A lot of this information we know because the work of Dick Gregory and Mark Lane and some other committed people like Dr. William Pepper. I always show that book for y'all. Y'all got to get this book. A lot of interesting information because it was proven on December 8th, 1999, the civil trial in Memphis, Tennessee. The jury came to a conclusion that the government was complicit. Elements of the government was complicit in the assassination of Dr. King. So the gun, thanks to the work of Judge Joe Brown and others like him, we found out that the gun could be traced back to the FBI. Just like the floor plan that took out Fred Hampton, FBI. It's like the FBI neutralized Marcus Garvey. So that's how you make the case for reparations. The government was involved in undermining the success of a group of people by taking out their leadership by any means necessary. So this is part of our case for reparations. Like for example, like I said before, my paternal grandmother was the 10th child of her father, my great grandfather. She was born when he was 66 years old, his last child, and he was born into slavery back in 1862. That's my great grandfather. I'll be 41 this year, so that's my great grandfather. So that means slavery wasn't that long ago. Stop that with this slavery was such a long time ago BS. We still feeling the effects of that to this day. Y'all worrying about illegals in cages on the board and all this other stuff. What about your children that have been in prison, juvenile? They didn't release a black man. He's in his 80s. He's been serving time since he was a juvenile. This man spent all these decades in prison in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania, to me, is worse than Alabama, Mississippi when it comes to justice for black people. Saying Pennsylvania is really horrible. Look at Bill Cosby. Look at Mumia Abu-Jamal. But this black man was in prison since he was 15 years old, since the 1950s. He was in prison before they killed Emmett Till. And it's now released this man. This man been institutionalized for most of his life. What he know about the real world? It's like, remember that scene from Shawshank Redemption where Morgan Freeman is released from prison, spending all them decades in prison, trying to adjust to this reality of this new life, being suicidal about it. Let's look it up. It's on Griot. Yeah, they just put it out on Griot. A black man serving in prison since he was 15, just released him in his 80s. This is an insane and inhumane system. And really, it sounded like it was a case of him hanging around the wrong crowd. And he got charged with the crowd. That he maybe didn't really do anything like kill somebody, but you hang around the wrong people, things happen. Like they charge a lot of people. Like you could be in a car with somebody, drive somebody around, and they tell you to pull over. They go decide to rob a store or bank or whatever. You ain't have no idea that they're gonna rob a store or bank, but they get in the car, gun and merchandise and money in hand. What you gonna do? Tell them to get out? No, you gonna just go along for the ride. And it is what it is, even though you didn't plan it or anything like that. But because this person decided to do this, and you happen to be in the car or driving the car, you just as guilty. But then Nipsey Hussle get killed. Not laughing at that, but think about what I'm saying. Nipsey Hussle get killed, and the woman who helped the alleged gunman get away, she ain't facing any jail time. She hasn't been charged with anything. And that's going on, what? That happened in 2019. So that'll be 2 years ago officially at the end of March this year. Time is flying. So this is the games they play. They're like nobody was charged in killing Fred Hampton or Mark Clark. No police officer was held accountable. So if they're not going to hold accountable the police officers who killed Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, or even the government, the state government, or the state killed Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, and y'all still upset about George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, these people were civilians, but they killing revolutionaries in their sleep, and we still ain't outraged enough about it. So I mean, it's interesting. You're just hiding the contradictions. Or you can storm the Capitol and get a misdemeanor. And black folks kind of weird. We said we so afraid, but they're killing you anyway. You afraid to stand up for yourself to, the Panthers, even the Panthers stood up to the system. And they went to the state capitol like the white folks did up in Michigan last year. And the thing about it is, why are you so afraid if they doing you wrong anyway? And there's no consequences to them doing you wrong. If you got number of black folks dying under questionable circumstances in the same jail or prison, whatever, as Sandra Bland. No, Sandra Bland died, it'd be 6 years ago this year. And that prison still exists. It's still operating. So why would I take our people seriously if you allow institutions that mistreat your people to still be in existence? Why should I fear black people? When we the laughing stock of humanity. Because we don't even protect our own selves. We think it's funny, oh man, I'll be your slave, I'll be your sex slave. But when y'all choose sex slavery over black liberation. What is your preference for sexual desires, and what they got to do with your liberation, your real liberation? Be willing to, why is it that you deal with white folks, everything tied to sex with them? Politics and sex go hand in hand with them. You got decent people. Hugh P. Newton, whatever you may say about him, but look at Fred Hampton. He came from a 2-parent household. Black man, black woman loved each other, raised their children in love. You can't produce a Fred Hampton unless he came out of a place of love for himself and for his people. He came from a loving place. I had a chance to talk to his brother on the phone. Brother had so much love and respect for his brother. He was his real brother. He made sure that people didn't forget about his brother. He didn't live long enough to see this movie, but he spent the rest of his life honoring his brother, creating a scholarship fund for future lawyers in the memory of his brother. Always reminding people of the sacrifices of his brother. His mother, a soldier, his father, a soldier, and decent brothers, decent family. Person that actually died for the people. And we got the nerve to not acknowledge this brother, and we're gonna wait till Hollywood say we're gonna make a movie about something related to him, and we get all excited because white folks say, okay, he's okay to talk about in this space now. If white folks did not approve this movie and say he was okay to talk about, y'all wouldn't be talking about Fred Hampton right now. But it's funny to me that y'all get all up in arms about when a white cop kill a black person. But we kill each other. I ain't talking about no black on black crime. I'm talking about self-hate. The hate that hate produce. Stuff is crazy. But let me remind you, Morel McCullough, that guy I played. I know I be all over the place. I be thinking about stuff. I thought this would be a movie review. It is a review. Life is a movie. It's a review of us. This is us. Morel McCullough ended up becoming the first black commissioned CIA officer in U.S. history. And his daughter, she has come to grips with this legacy. She's writing a book about it. I think she's planning on making a movie. And it's probably a good time to make this movie and write this book. I'm going to reach out to her soon and try to get her on the show because she's very open about her father's past and the conflicted legacy and how it impacts her. And she's like, she's an interesting person. She's a writer, writes for papers like the Washington Post and Atlantic Journal, I believe, and other entities. So she's out there. She's living her life. She has a family, you know. So I'm going to try to reach out to her and out of respect. And I might try her father again. But her father's from Mississippi. And he traumatized by this system as well. It's like William O'Neal. I mean, you know, he's a guy, young guy. I'm not trying to take up for William O'Neal, but the way Lakeith Stanfield played him, you could see some humanity in the man. He was a human being. The man ended up having a family. I believe his son will be in his 30s right now. He had a little small son, so I'm assuming the son will be in the 30s, according to what I read, based on what his wife said about his little new child. But you know, he lived with the demons, man, because he knew that Fred Hampton was no monster. You know, he understood the humanity of Fred Hampton, the William O'Neal guy, but he tried to deny it to himself for all those years. This man lived with that guilt for about, he was 20 when Fred Hampton died, so he lived that guilt for 20 years. And really, in the way he cursed his family with that guilt, his son gonna have to find. I mean, he cursed his seeds, man. It's like Billy Cowles. You know, Dick Gregory said, you know what? Like Dick, when Billy Cowles admitted to what he said, you know, Billy Cowles was a guy who Dr. King went over his house to eat, you know, dinner. And I believe that Billy Cowles' wife at the time, she died and he got remarried, but she said the food was already ready. It'd been ready. It was getting cold. And Billy Cowles was cross-examined in this trial where they found the civil trial, right? They cross-examined Billy Cowles. And it came out that allegedly Billy Cowles was Memphis police informant. It was part of Dr. King's inner circle. He was, you know, he was from Chicago. He was born in Shelby, Mississippi, but he was raised in Chicago. He's a Chicago guy. Y'all remember that club fire that happened back in 2003 in Chicago? All them black people got killed. I believe Jesse Jackson people was involved. I mean, they owned the club or something. Then Billy Cowles people were also involved. I think he had a nephew or somebody that owned that club. You know, all them black folks end up dying in that club. I don't know. I forgot. It was a fire, and they couldn't get out. It's kind of the Rhythm Club fire of 1940 while them black folks got killed. But anybody from Chicago, can y'all recall that? And they just posted in the comment section a link to an article about that. So Billy Cowles, you know, he was the Judas, just like Ernest Withers, you know, the civil rights photographer. And I had a chance to talk to Mr. Withers for about an hour. I had went to his studio. I want to say it's back in 2004. His studio on Beale Street, which is now his gallery on Beale Street. And he was a kind dude. You know, I called him on the phone, found his number in the white pages. He told me to come on down. We talked. I said, "Do you know Gordon Parks?" He looked at me like I was crazy. Do I know Gordon Parks? You know, he pulled out his wallet, had this wallet-sized photo of him, Gordon Parks, and Russell Simmons up in New York City in a gallery celebrating Gordon Parks' birthday. I said, okay, my bad. No, Ernest Withers was like one of the first black police officers in Memphis City history in the modern era, back in the 40s. So he also was the guy who was the photographer at the Emmett Till trial. He took the famous photo of Emmett Till's great uncle, Most Wright, pointing out the killers of his nephew. There they be. You know, he was a preacher man, whatever, Most Wright. And also, I mean, he's like probably the dean of civil rights photographers. He did a lot to highlight the movement through his photography. And so he was able to get access to King's inner circle. Now, it came out after he died. He died in 2007. About a couple years later, it came out that he was an FBI informant, and people was conflicted about that. You know, Dick Gregory thought he was the ultimate Judas. Other people like Andrew Young and Reverend C.T. Vivian, who I talked to, they thought that he did more to help the movement than harm the movement. because they, for the most part, already knew they was under some type of surveillance. You know, Dr. King, they sent that, you know, them tapes of him allegedly having sex with somebody outside his wife, and that's been documented and dramatized in movies and whatnot. So they knew they was being watched anyway. But they believe Ernest Withers did more good than harm, with the exception of Dick Gregory. And I know C.T. Vivian was more upset with a guy that was on the payroll for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. This guy named James Harrison or Jimmy Harrison. He was actually on the staff of the SCLC getting benefits and a salary, but also he was an FBI informant. Like, he met with the FBI the same day that Dr. King was assassinated. So when I interviewed Reverend C.T. Vivian that time, he didn't mention this man by name, but his demeanor changed. It was my first time I heard anger in Reverend C.T. Vivian's voice. He didn't say the dude by name, but I knew he was talking about based on my research. He was talking about this James Jimmy Harrison character. So William O'Neill was not just an informant, he was an agent provocateur. See, I make a distinction between informants and agent provocateurs. No, informant provides information. Like Mr. Withers was a police officer background. Like, let's say, well, Mr. Withers was at a meeting, right? At a rally, he'll take pictures. Freelance photographer, right? You freelance photographer. Then he go to the person who is his customer, and let's say the FBI. They pay him the money for the pictures. Then they ask him a question. So who's there in the picture, and what they talking about? Okay. Now, to me, that's an informant. Paid to inform, provide information. Now, William O'Neill went from being just an informant to being an agent provocateur because he helped give out the floor plan, the layout to Fred Hampton's apartment to his handler, Roy Mitchell, who passed it along to the state attorney office, who passed it along to Chicago police, and they actually raided the home, shot up the home, seriously wounded a lot of people, and then killed their two main targets, Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. See, that's an agent provocateur when you actually initiate something that leads to an assassination. Now, you could say, well, Ernest Withers was in Memphis. He provided his information to the FBI, and Dr. King got killed. Dr. King knew that he was a dead man already. Dr. King already knew by January of 1966 that the United States government was going to assassinate him. He was told this by a black FBI agent from California, that the government was going to assassinate him. This is back in January 1966. He had a conference meeting with his top lieutenants at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference back in August of 66, according to Reverend Albert Sampson, that I recorded for posterity. He talked about this at the Civil Rights Museum back in November 2015. I got it on tape. I played it for y'all a couple of times, that Dr. King will be assassinated by the U.S. government. Dr. King even knew when he was watching the Kennedy procession back in 1963, the funeral procession of JFK, according to Walter Funtroy, who was the secretary of the SCLC at the time, they was watching the funeral procession of JFK. He said, if they could do that to a president, I won't make it to 40. They got Dr. King at 39. So Dr. King thought they were going to kill him at the People's Campaign, Poor People Campaign in D.C., but they could not allow him to get there because it would have undermined the government. So it was not business as usual. See, the March on Washington in 63 was a parade for to help raise the wage, the working wage, right? Jobs and freedom. And really, it was endorsed by the Kennedy administration. You know, Malcolm X talked about that in his message to the grassroots, about how the Kennedy administration endorsed the March on Washington, or what he called the Farce on Washington. So really, it was no revolution. It was just a parade. And you call it a protest, but if you really protest, you don't need no permit. So it's a parade. So let's call it that. But 5 years later, Dr. King was coming back with a mandate from the people to redistribute the wealth, share the wealth, redistribute the wealth. And the powers that be was already overextended in Vietnam. And think about what's going on in DC right now with all these National Guards and stuff to march. What is all that about? So they couldn't allow King to get to DC with all those people from around the country coming. Because like I said, the Black Messiah is not just for Black people. The Black Messiah represents the unification of humanity, period. See, that's what people get. It's right the black. No, 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 no. See, the powers that be know that black people are the original people. So we are the parents of civilization of humanity. So when a black man calls out to the people for unification, and he's coming from a sincere place, from that melanin, from that root, like Fred Hampton was doing, like Dr. King was doing, like Malcolm was trying to do, we can't allow that head to connect with the body. It's like with Marcus Garvey, you got to separate the head from the body. And that's what they've been doing. That's why we don't got no black leadership now, because the people y'all call black leaderships are not leaders, they're gatekeepers. They don't represent the interests of the larger body of black people, so-called black people. They're working in interest of themselves. That's why it's weird that we celebrate the first and only. That's weird. Why? It does not benefit the masses. It should not be they the first one, then that's they the only one. It should be, hey, I came here with my people and told. It's like Jay-Z. Jay-Z had a team that believed in him from the get-go, but yet he got there by himself, right? You know, Dame Dash, they could have all got more money together probably if they worked together. But Jay, they picked them out, said, we're going to take care of you, forget about them. It's like the NWA thing. We take care of Easy, forget about everybody else. Forget about Dre, forget about Q, you know, everybody else, whatever. Easy, we got you. This is what they do to us. That's how they do divide and conquer. Dr. King was bringing in white folks from Appalachia, the Native Americans out the reservation, bringing in black people from the ghettos, from the plantation. He was bringing in everybody. So they say, no, not only were they going to bring them in, he could not control these people. He could not control these people. Once they got there, they was there to upset business as usual. Like what Farrakhan did is me and Moore March. Well, I went to the Justice A.L.L rally March. He did it on a Saturday. He didn't do it on a Monday or Wednesday. He did it on a Saturday. So he already was making his compromise with the powers that be, not to be a nuisance, not to disrupt business as usual. And I'm not knocking Farrakhan. He's a terrorist too. I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying what is you should be thinking about. Because like I said, you don't need no permit for a protest if it's a true protest, because a protest is going against business as usual. It's not to, let's get this procedure and all. Yeah, that's crazy. That's insanity. That's real insanity when you call it this a protest when it's not a protest, it's a parade when you get a permit. The protest is not to go along with the powers that be, it's to upset the powers that be and heighten the contradictions. So that's what a black messiah really is. It's not just for black people, it's for all of humanity to be united under black consciousness. And that cannot be allowed to happen in a system that thrives off divide and conquer and fear. And that why they took out King and Fred Hampton and Malcolm and Garvey and on and on and on and on. So y'all be celebrating people that ain't worth celebrating. Finally saw Good Trouble about John Lewis. Dawn Porter did that. Shout out to her. We actually interviewed Dawn Porter some years ago when her Spies of Mississippi came out. You should look at the Spies of Mississippi as well. But I even shocked her when I told her that Thurgood Marshall was an informant. And that's another thing. Thurgood Marshall was an FBI informant. The man whose name is on the Baltimore airport was an FBI informant. The first black Supreme Court justice or associate, whatever you want to call him, was an FBI informant. This is not no hearsay or gossip. This is actual factual. Thurgood Marshall provided information to J. Edgar Hoover on the black movements of his day. He believed that Dr. King and Malcolm X got too much credit for the work he was able to do within the system. Now, Thurgood Marshall was an amazing lawyer and advocate for black people. Not to take that away from him, I think that he did 32 Supreme Court cases before the Supreme Court, and he won 29 of those cases. He won 29 cases out of 32 before the Supreme Court as a lawyer. Not to knock, and I really enjoyed the movie that Chadwick Boseman did when he played Marshall, Thurgood Marshall, called Marshall. He didn't look like Marshall. He had the spirit of Marshall. But Thurgood was an FBI informant. This is nothing. I'm not trying to disparage his name, but I told Dawn Porter that upset her. She couldn't believe it. Then some other people chatted in and said, yeah, it's true. He was an informant. And it's been proven. It's like he had no love for Dr. King or Malcolm like that. He despised them guys. He said them guys got a lot of publicity for nothing to him. He said the real work is going through litigation through the courts. What he was doing. So he put his life on the line for the people. He almost got lynched and stuff like that. He got into fights and stuff. So Thurgood Marshall was no punk, was no pushover, but he was an informant for the FBI. So how does that look when you know that information? How does it look? But you got to heighten the contradictions. And everybody got their flaws. So I'm not here to knock even Huey. Like I said, Huey had a drug problem. Huey did some things that people may question, is that the right thing to do, whatever. But Huey, he did things for the people, and you live in an imperfect world, so you make imperfect people, not trying to, like with Ernest Withers. I'm just putting stuff out here because a lot of us get too emotional about a lot of things. It's not worth getting emotional about. It is what it is, right? What has happened, right? But we could learn from it. And that's the most important thing. But yeah, John Lewis documentary. John Lewis lived to be 80 years old. John Lewis, whatever you may think about John Lewis, I know people we like to, clown John Lewis. A lot of us do. I actually gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award. I got respect for John Lewis. John Lewis was he was courageous. Whatever you may think about his politics and all this stuff, later, the man had courage. And yeah, he got beat up. He got beat up a lot. He got arrested a lot, but he believed in what he believed in. And now years later, he kind of mellow out, whatever. In the movie track, like he did so much in Congress. But when black folks were suffering, he was silent. Like, where was his conscience of the Congress mindset when black folks was catching hell in the post aftermath of Katrina, of Hurricane FEMA? Where was he at when Katrina happened on black folks? And I think they acknowledged that he didn't go along with the crime bill. Y'all could correct me, but I think they showed that he voted against the crime bill. But also look what he did when he ran against Julian Bond for that seat that he occupied when he died. This man threw away 25 plus years of friendship over that. I mean, he accused Julian Bond of having a drug problem. He told Julian, look, I got tested for drugs. I think Julian should get tested for drugs in his own way. But let's show you that John Lewis was all this Mr. Nonviolence. He had a ruthless thing about him too. And I met him a couple times. He wasn't a bad person. He's a likable dude. But to be in politics the way he was in politics, you can't be a pushover. You got to be a little bit ruthless. And he basically, he was ruthless when he ran against Julian Bond. And I met Julian Bond. Julian Bond is interesting. He come from black royalty, I guess. His father was the president of Lincoln University for a long period of time. Julian Bond, like Dick Gregory said, Dick knew of Julian, but he didn't know Julian like that because he said he came from a different pedigree than a lot of them did. Julian Bond didn't come from the hood. He didn't come from like what a lot of black folks came from, that they were organizing. Julian Bond came from upper middle class background who was exposed to a lot of unique experiences and people growing up because of who his father was, a very well respected, prominent educator who ran Lincoln University. And Lincoln University had one of the most premier art collections in the world. They had one of the greatest art collections, especially modern art collections, any place in the world. It was a white dude, a doctor, I believe, who donated that gallery to Lincoln University. I think the white folks got it back. Just like in Tennessee State University, or was that Fisk University? Either Fisk University or Tennessee State University had this amazing Georgia O'Keeffe collection. They had an amazing modern art collection that the white folks take it. Black folks always allowing white folks to take everything. And really, they're not taking it, we just giving it to them. This stuff is despicable. I think they did a documentary about that white philanthropist and his art collection that he gave to Lincoln University. And I think it's a museum in Philadelphia that got access and ownership of that. And y'all, I'm gonna give y'all the homework. I'm tired of just telling all the information. Why don't y'all find it out what I'm talking about? But imagine if Fred Hampton was able to be alive right now. How much you think Fred Hampton would have done if he was able to make it to almost 80 years of living? This man did a lot in 21 years. How much you think he would have got done? Yeah, Fisk. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Brian. So it was Fisk. Y'all remember that? Yeah, it was Fisk. Yeah, but they had like a amazing, but they was in some type of financial trouble. That's how they do you. They get you in financial trouble to take you. Then you make an offer you can't refuse. But yeah, Fisk and also Lincoln University had that great modern art collection. And it's crazy. Okay, somebody great, thank you. He said, okay, John Lewis persuaded the Congressional Black Caucus to support the crime bill, but he didn't sign it. He was the whip. Okay. Ain't that some sneaky stuff though? But Clyburn, he supported the crime bill. Clanburn, as Dr. Randy Short would call Clanburn. You know, he was on the documentary with about um, John Lewis, and that guy, you can't trust nobody like him. And South Carolina's an interesting place. You know, they betrayed Denmark Vesey. My people from South Carolina, but I'm saying Denmark Vesey, or Vesey. It's like it's interesting how you pronounce his name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. He was betrayed by black leadership in the church. They betrayed Denmark Vesey. The black folks interesting, but yeah, Clyburn, so man, Uncle Remus looking dude. Well, I don't Joe don't have to give me nothing. I'm just happy. I'm just content that he got into the White House. You know, the reason why he got in the White House because Clyburn helped the black folks in South Carolina vote for this clown. That would made him legitimate. Had he not won the South Carolina primary, you know, whatever you may think about the election, how it was ran, he wouldn't have had a snowball chance in hell of being president right now. So black people always utilizing our power for everybody but ourselves. And therein lies the problem that we don't utilize our power to unite among. But then when we do that, the government said, we're going to take away your power. We're going to cut your head off the body. We'll cut the head off the body. Like when we got behind Marcus Garvey, when people always talking about when Marcus from the Allens, he was a nobody. Jamaica didn't care for Marcus Garvey. He had to come here to make it. It was black folks that came out of this narrative here. A. Philip Randolph gave him his first speaking job in America. He's from Florida. He ain't from the island. He's from here, from an all-black town. A. Philip Randolph. Black folks, you know, his strongest support was black people in Louisiana. Marcus Garvey. Then I heard Dick Gregory talked about this. He said, let me see. Is that still true in 2021? It got some fine black women in Tennessee, especially when I'm from Memphis. Got fine black women, but it's crazy, man. But like, think about if Fred Hampton was able to live to almost 80, what he had done. They all in the awesome documentary. They had Elijah Cummings, who does look like, who did look like John Lewis. And it's still amazing to me that John Lewis was actually older than Elijah Cummings. Elijah Cummings just look old. He looked old, boy. And he was younger than John Lewis, but he said they were mistaken for John Lewis. He just go along with it. And then he said something in the film I thought was interesting, and people might not took it as such. He said, it's an honor to be mistaken for a great man. That's what Elijah Cummings said when people thought he was John Lewis. He just go along with it and took pictures with the people. He said it was an honor to be mistaken for a great man. It's like it was like a Freudian slip or something. But it's like how Herschel Walker was talking about slavery and black people want a hand up and not a hand out. He mean he said everything wrong. Kind of like Elijah Cummings saying, I'm not really a great man. May he rest in peace, of course. But I'm just saying, but it's honor to be mistaken for a great man. But John Lewis had his grander moments when he was younger. You know, Edmund Pettus Bridge, March on Washington, when he was in his 20s, kind of mellowed out. But, you know, it shows that he was savvy. You know, people thought he was maybe slow. He wasn't slow. He was very smart. Even after all them concussions he got, he had more concussions than Steve Young and Troy Aikman put together, it seems. But but that, you know, that movie, like we like that type of stuff. Like, what did he really do for his constituents in Atlanta? How did he move things? I think Julian Bond would have been a better choice, actually. And like Julian said, well, the white folks wanted John Lewis. And I like how he said that because they were sitting next to each other doing an interview after the election. He said, well, no, the black folks went for me, but the white folks wanted John Lewis. See, white folks want what is safe. It's like I remember when Obama got elected in 2008. you actually had white folks, older white folks saying, well, racism is over because we got Obama in there. And then I remember earlier how people said, was he black enough to be president? I said, what president ever been black enough to be president? To be black? I mean, I understand this. Like, it's weird how they use these games, the media do. Like the reason why white folks love Obama because he don't have the guilt of what they did to black Americans, like native black Americans, the FBAs and the ADOS. He don't have that type of narrative guilt for white people because his daddy's a Kenyan. And I don't believe his daddy a Kenyan. I believe his daddy's from Kansas. Not from Kenya, but Kansas. Y'all already know how I feel about that. But I'm gonna wrap it up. I could talk more and more, but I'm gonna put this to rest. I think it's okay. I think we can end on this note right here. Then I know people say, well, he didn't talk about the movie. I did talk about the movie. I talked about the movie the other day. And I talked about the movie, but I put it in historical context. But do yourselves a favor, check out that Panther movie from '95, directed by Mario Van Peebles, screenplay written by Melvin Van Peebles. It also had a good soundtrack. I know this Panther movie, the Fred Hampton, the Judas and the Black Messiah, pretty good soundtrack. This also had a pretty good soundtrack. Music is a part of our struggle. It's a part of our story. But before I go, let me plug in some things. Thank y'all for being patient. Check out the Independent Lens while you still can, while it's still free, I guess. The first Rainbow Coalition movie. The documentary is under an hour. It's worth looking at. Now, that guy right there, his name is Bobby Lee Jr. or the second, but his full name is Robert E. Lee Jr. So he's up in that scene. You know how I remember that scene in the Judas and the Black Messiah where Fred Hampton and them came to that part of Chicago where the poor whites live at that meeting, and the guy named Preacher was up there before that Confederate flag. So he actually was doing that. Bob Lee actually went into that meeting and talked to the white folks at the time. And Bob Lee was from Houston, Texas. He passed away back in 2017. So he was dead. He was a righteous ancestor once this documentary came out this year. But he told them white folks, he saw the Confederate flag he wasn't cool with, but he said, hey, my name is Robert E. Lee Jr. The white folks look at him, they started laughing. Okay. But the thing about he knew that, like Dick Gregory said, them poor whites are not our enemies. They're not the real white people. Real white folks set policy. They don't have enough money in the bank to be white. They poor white trash. But like the thing about it is, I'd rather be a poor white trash than to be a rich nigga. You understand what I'm saying? Because at least they still got some so-called white privilege. But the thing about Hampton was it's not about just your skin color. It's about class warfare. Like Fred Hampton said it best. See, a lot of us think this white power is bad. No, white power is not bad if it's not based on divide and conquer. Because Fred Hampton Sr. said we want white power for white people, black power for black people, yellow power for yellow people, red power for red people, all power to the people. Not the so-called rights that set the policy and run everything. See, the threat of a Fred Hampton, of a Panther Party, of a Dr. King, of a Malcolm X is that, go back to what Dick Gregory said, if we allow a black person to get in a position to affect public policy, we're in trouble. The people who run this damn system. We ever allow this type of consciousness to be in the middle of setting public policy, because what Fred Hampton was doing, he was 21, right? Let's feed the kids. We're feeding thousands of kids before they go to school. Breakfast program. And guess what the government do? We're going to do free breakfast program. Then he do free health clinics and screening for sickle cell and stuff like that. And guess what the government do? They start doing free health clinic and testing for sickle cell. So you heighten the contradictions, you start doing stuff, and they got to respond to it. So that's how you get in front of the narrative. You create the narrative. You don't have to always counter. Don't always be reactionary. Be revolutionary. Get in front of it and make them counter. Make them be on their heels. Now, ain't that you putting this government to shame? They got all these resources to go to Vietnam and all this stuff to blow up people, but they can't put no money behind to feed the people. So this is what we got to understand. So y'all need to check out this independent doc lens While you can, the first Rainbow Coalition on, I guess, your nearest PBS channel station, and it's worth watching. I know Stanley Nelson did a Black Panther documentary. They talked about Fred Hampton. My thing about Stanley Nelson's documentaries, it's like they're all over the place. It's like it's not focused. He missed out on some things that he could explore, but he don't explore. And he just be all over the place. But it's a good start. Shout out to Stanley Nelson. I do like his recent Netflix documentary he did about crack cocaine. I think it's like one of his better documentaries, and it's worth watching if you got a Netflix account about the crack cocaine epidemic. He did a great job of focusing in on the themes in that one, but a lot of times his stuff be all over the place. And also, I want to plug. Let me see. Plug Eyes on the Prize. That's my fellow alum from WashU Henry Hampton's magnum opus. Not only here, the Black Side Productions, that was the largest black media company in the world. Brother from St. Louis. And somebody asked me, was he related to Fred Hampton? I don't know, but we all related though. But it'd be interesting, and it makes sense if he was, because it makes sense why he did the work he did with Black Side Productions. But let me see. Go to this site. This is amazing. This is my alma mater. One of my mentors, my Jegna, Dean McLeod, made that happen. He outbidded a whole bunch of different places for the archives of Black Side Productions. And like I said, they made the Eyes on the Prize series. Like you look at the Judas and Black Messiah, they show the footage of William O'Neill. They got that from here, from the Eyes on the Prize series. These guys actually went to garbage bins and news stations around the country, saving important, precious civil rights footage. And you look at, let me see that they got all their interviews cataloged, all the interviews that went to making this amazing docuseries, award-winning docuseries. You can look at all their interviews. You got Ralph Abernathy. Not only do they got the transcripts, but you can actually view the actual video. Now, all the footage that you got in these, in this browser, in this archives, they didn't use all of the footage. They might have filmed somebody for 2 hours or an hour. They got Huey Newton. They might use the snippets of that interview, but you get the whole interview along with the transcripts. You understand? So you can break this down. This is an amazing teaching tool that my alma mater, the one that traumatized me, they did right by me on this one. They got the Eyes on the Prize whole thing available to the people to access for free. It's ironic that you think about it, the footage that these people save, the reason why you didn't see Eyes on the Prize for a long time, they had to actually license the footage that they saved from the garbage bin. Now the white folks had the nerve, you gonna save the garbage? I guess one man's garbage is another man's treasure. We'll give you a license. You got to pay a license fee. And so I guess that's why Eyes on the Prize was on TV for a while, because people had to pay the license fee for the footage in the dang documentary. But now you can access this 24/7 and WashU. My alma mater, Missouri. Let me see. It's called digital.wusl. It's digital.wustl.edu/Eyes on the Prize. I mean, that's available, man. That's a teaching tool. All you teaching homeschool, get your kids on that. I remember when I went back to the archives before they had everything online. I went there, spent a week in the archives back in 2009. It was amazing. And they would give you like these books, these bounded books with Eyes on the Prize on the bounder, all the transcripts in this bounded book, like a little pocket Bible, whatever. But they'll give it to you for free when you visit the archives. I don't know if they still do that, especially right now, what's going on in the world. But I got several of those books I would always sometimes give away for free. Wish I would have kept most of them now. I would give these books out to friends and family and stuff so they can learn this information. Very important stuff. So man. So like I said, it's so much stuff I can talk about. And I don't talk about. I just keep a lot of stuff to myself. I live a very loner. I'm a loner for real. I get along with people. I'm not socially awkward. I know how to talk with people. I know how to deal with people. I know how to lead people. But I spend most of my time alone. So With that said, I think it's about 2:10. I have officially went longer than the movie Judas and the Black Messiah. I know people say he didn't talk about the movie. I did talk about the movie. I gave you some history lessons, some homework assignments, and all that stuff. You learn stuff you never knew. You never knew about Frank Ward and the Mac and all that stuff. You know, whatever. You some of y'all do. And I love to get people from Oakland from that era. If you know anything about Frank Ward and Huey and all that, please post it in the comments below as well. Let me see. Just reading y'all comments real quick before I get out of here. Oh, it's Mercury Retro. I can't get access. Okay. Yeah, Robert E. Lee. But I mean, God got a good sense of humor, man. The Most High has a good sense of humor. Like Baba Dick would say a lot of times, when the universal God chooses you, sometimes the universal God doesn't leave a fingerprint or a footprint. A lot of work that Dick Gregory did, he does not get acknowledged for because people don't know. Like people don't know that he was a sole inspiration for Freedom Summer 1964. Unless you look at that documentary Freedom Summer did by Stanley Nelson, that was a good one. I give Stanley his props. But he actually interviewed Bob Moses and other people, and Bob Moses, who's a great civil rights activist, and he's still around, an elder that's still around. He said, we was inspired by seeing Dick Gregory bringing in supplies to the people of Greenwood, the black folks in Greenwood, there to register the vote, and then the Kennedy administration, the government took away they food stamps and welfare support. So Dick Gregory got with Hugh Hefner and started flying in food on a plane, like tons of food and other things to give to the people of Greenwood, Mississippi, to keep them sustained through the fall and winter of 63 and 64. And so Bob Moses said he saw this on TV and heard about this because Bob Moses was doing activism work in Mississippi too, in the Delta. And he was from Harlem, New York. He was a teacher from Harlem, New York. So they said that inspired them to do Freedom Summer of 64. Dick has inspired so many people and did so many things he don't get credit for, man. They didn't do a movie about Dick Gregory. And they are working on a documentary. I met the brother who's working on a documentary, raise all that money for Dick Gregory to do a documentary. He actually interviewed me at his wake at Howard University. So I'm sure that Dr. Kristen Gregory and them are working on these things, and hopefully they'll come out in the very near future. But he interviewed me doing the wake out in the Howard University. And so I don't know if I'll make the end of the documentary, but yeah, I document my own story. I write my own books and stuff about my experience with Dick Gregory and what I'm still learning about that experience. And I just want to thank y'all for being very patient as I work my way through my mind maze to give y'all some information. I think I gave y'all everything. Like I said, I could talk forever, man. But thank y'all. I appreciate it for the support. For everybody who's been giving support through the mail, donations. If I didn't shout you out, my bad. Charge it. It's not on intention, but it's a lot of stuff going on with me. Nobody knows. But I'm glad to be of service to the people, and I look forward to giving y'all some more insight and information. I got some things hopefully I can bring out this week that I'm working on to present to you all. But I love being a steward of good information for our people. Knowledge is the currency of the universe. And sure. And y'all need to go check out that Black Panther coloring book. I'm sure some more images from the Black Panther coloring book as I'm thinking about it. Since I got it pulled out. Let me get out this too. So I can cook me a bologna sandwich. I wanted a cheeseburger today, man. Everything was shut down. Yeah, this is what they think of us, y'all. Remember, they're sending these coloring books to white households, right? Sending white folks' households. That's what they think of us. We got to control our media. That's why black media matters. We got to control the narrative. And let's see something. Wow. I think Brother Ron, what's going on? I don't know, man. See that stuff, that propaganda? Check it out. Yes, pig, be afraid of the black man. He, see what I'm trying to read this print. Okay, it's interesting. So these are all this propaganda, right? Okay, let me read a disclaimer now. As I log off here, thank y'all once again for tuning in, Brother Ron. We all be News Free Dixie for the 21st century. But let me close this out and get out of here. Disclaimer. The views expressed by hosts and guests on the We All Be TV platform are not the official views, opinions, beliefs, or perspectives of We All Be News or the We All Be Group Incorporated. We All Be News is an organization that thoroughly believes in supplementing the information narrative that is usually supplied by the corporate news entities with those viewpoints, expressions, which may be marginalized or ignored for a plethora of reasons. We are about informing the general public on alternative perspectives as it relates to news and information, and letting the general public be the ultimate judge in deciding on how to use said information. Informed citizens are responsible citizens. Thank you for your support. And that does it for this edition. If you want to support the brother artivist and We All Be movement, because knowledge is currency in the universe, but also we need currency to pay bills and to keep things going. You could cash out your support. $ R2C2H2. You could PayPal or Google Pay it and Zelle it. R2C2H2 at gmail.com. And also you could buy artivist art, R2C2H2.com. You could wear artivist art. Got my Dick Gregory Brothers M and Baba Dick too. Mega, let's see, Mega, okay, Mega Evers, Malcolm, Kane, and that old and young Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory was the only one to make it out of his 30s. Mega was taken from us at 37, Malcolm and Martin 39, Dick lived to be 84. He lived over twice their age. And and you look at somebody like a Dick, a well-lived life. Like I was saying, what if Fred Hampton lived to be Dick Gregory age or whatever, or John Lewis age? Well, the things he would have accomplished. But it is what it is. But thank you all, family. In the words of Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Y'all keep on producing and pushing. Peace out, one love, and it don't stop. Don't stop till you get enough. Don't stop till you get enough.